everyone. I wanted to make a quick video here on taking things personally. Taking things personally is something that most of us do, and it's very easy to do because we're operating out of a sense of self-image or ego. And of course, as soon as you are a definition or an idea, then you have to maintain that idea, you have to reinforce that idea, or in some cases you have to defend that idea. And so what you end up with is a filter right in front of you. When somebody says something, it goes through this filter of how does that relate to me? How does that validate me, or how does that tear me down? And so we end up taking things personally. Now, rather than creating a rule that says, well, I shouldn't take things personally because it makes my life difficult, let's try and remember why we shouldn't take things personally. When people are operating out of self-image, even if somebody sees something in you that they don't like and they say something about it, well, you don't immediately have to take that as self-defining. You don't have to look at that as a threat unless, of course, you are operating out of self-image. You need to remember that that person is seeing exactly what they need to see to validate their own self-image. So they're not really looking at you at all. They're looking at the image of you that they see by necessity. And because of that, if you take it personally, well, you're just falling into that game and you're once again operating as a self-image, and then you're going to do the exact same thing that they're doing, which is, of course, look at them and create a self-image that validates you. And this is why we have conflict. It's not because two people can't come to terms with having a different point of view. It's because they define themselves by that point of view. And so it becomes a war, it becomes a battle between one side and the other, both of them needing to feel right, because once again they're operating out of self-image and ego. So if you remember that when you look at others and you're judging them, you're doing so based on what you need to see, then you can also remember that people are doing the exact same thing to you. So even if somebody does come on the attack and say something about you, even if your child is lipping off to you, even if you have a friend who suddenly is judging you, you don't have to take that as self-defining unless you genuinely believe that you are nothing more than your self-image. But the whole point of what we're talking about and what we're coming to is the idea that you're not. That you can think something about yourself and that thing will limit you. But if you abandon the thought, then you are something else entirely. So rather than taking things personally, use them as an exercise to remind yourself, well, that's not who I am. If somebody says something bad about you, remind yourself that may be true. In fact, it might be based in reality, but that in no way limits what you're capable of, and therefore it does not limit you. Now, if you remember that, life becomes a lot easier, and you won't take things as personally, which will change how you interact with the world and your friends and everyone else. And before you know it, you're going to find yourself in a position where you're just not as touchy. You're not as prone to reaction, which is again going to change your experience, and it's going to change the impact you have on others. You won't feel like judging others. So people won't have the opportunity to take things personally when you're talking to them, because you just won't give them anything to take offense at or become defensive about. And that's how we change the world, is bit by bit abandoning the idea that self-image defines us and therefore does not divide us. And that's pretty much my point on taking things personally. If you have any questions, of course, if you want me to expand on anything, leave a comment below and I'll be happy to do so. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye-bye.